No, he doesn't. One time he tried to run me and my mama over with the car.
Allegedly, Prince once tried to hit Michael Jackson with his car. The two musical geniuses had an intense rivalry that went on for decades. Here's what we know about their feud and how it might have built up to such a crazy moment. As two of the most iconic performers of all time, Prince and Michael drew a lot of comparisons at the peak of their careers. It was an easy comparison for a lot of people to make considering their many similarities, but the truth was that they were always very different, both as people and as figures in the music industry. Michael represented everything we all understood to be the inner workings of the music business. He was a child star with the Jackson 5 before going on to a solo career as a teenager and later becoming the biggest star in the world with his debut album. Although he was a great songwriter in his own right, his early wealth and stardom meant that he never had any problem getting help to achieve his musical ambitions. Prince, on the other hand, was completely different. He had to work his way up in the industry all alone, putting in a lot of hours before finally breaking through to huge fame. That's not to say that Michael didn't put in the work. However, his rise to the top never seemed to be in doubt. Prince, meanwhile, had to wait for his sixth album, Purple Rain, to land before he could be considered to be as big of a star as the king of pop. For Prince, everything had to be fought for tooth and nail. This might give us an idea about what lie behind their two very different personalities. While Michael always shied away from confrontation, Prince was never scared of a fight. As Prince started to climb the ladder, people started to mention his name alongside Michael's more frequently. For a while, there was even talk of them doing a duet on Michael's smash hit Bad. This was even confirmed by Prince himself during an interview with Chris Rock. However, Prince went on to say that he turned the offer down, and his explanation for why he refused to do it was hilarious.
You know, that Wesley Snipes character, that would have been me. All right, now you...
Prince went on to explain why he just didn't see how it could work between them. He said that the first line of the song was Michael singing, "Yours but is mine," and Prince's stance on it was that Michael sure wasn't going to sing that to him and he wasn't going to sing it to Michael. It was clear that the two performers were just not seeing eye to eye at the time, but it got worse, and it all came out a few years ago during the explosive interview with none other than Quincy Jones. Quincy was talking to a reporter in an interview for GQ back in 2018, and he recalled one infamous incident that really seemed to drive a wedge between Prince and Michael, and what he said sent everyone wild. The reporter asked Quincy if it was true that Prince appeared in the studio when he and Michael were recording Off the Wall. Quincy said that Prince showed up in the back of a car with his manager. Quincy described him as topless and looking like a deer in the headlights, which sounded quite shocking to fans who always thought of Prince as the unflappable maestro. Quincy went on to ask the reporter if they had ever seen what happened with Prince, Michael, and James Brown. This was a legendary incident that occurred during a James Brown performance in August 1983. James was performing at the Beverly Theater in Los Angeles. Both Michael and Prince attended the show. Quincy went on to say that this was the night that Prince made a fool out of himself. Both Michael and Prince ended up performing on stage with James that night. At that point, Michael was a huge star while Prince was just on the edge of global fame. James first asked Michael to come up on stage. The story goes they performed an amazing duet together, which included the moonwalk, and received a standing ovation. According to Quincy, it was Michael himself who then whispered to James's ear. He asked James to call Prince up next, but apparently this was not actually meant as a kind gesture. Michael allegedly whispered to James that he dared Prince to try and follow him. Clearly, Michael wanted to humiliate Prince, who was at this point starting to reach near to Michael's status. But that night, everything went wrong for Prince. His performance was considered a total disaster. He stripped down to his chest and performed a cringe-worthy Jimi Hendrix impression with his guitar. He then tried to grab a prop lamppost only to fall into the crowd. It was reported that James was so embarrassed for him that he picked up Prince's coat himself and gave it back to him. Years later, recordings emerged which showed Michael talking about the incident. Michael was heard saying that Prince made a fool of himself and that he was a joke. Michael went on to say that he had been embarrassed for Prince, and he even said that it had all been caught on video. And it was this detail that led to things getting a little wild between the two singers. Quincy said that Prince believed that Michael had the video himself. He also said that Prince told Michael that he would end his life if he showed it to anybody. But according to Quincy, it wasn't all just empty threats. The reporter asked him if Prince spoke to Michael after the show, and Quincy said there was a lot more to it than that. Not only did Prince speak to Michael, but according to Quincy, he also waited in a limousine to try and run over Michael, as well as his mother and LaToya Jackson. Quincy said that Michael had told him about the insane moment sometime later. The reporter seemed shocked by what Quincy had revealed, and so did everyone else who heard the interview. Thankfully, no one got hurt that night, but Quincy had more to say about that fateful concert. He suggested that what happened to Prince showed the real difference between him and Michael at that point. Prince's disastrous performance was down to his lack of experience. When Michael got on stage, he sang for around 40 seconds and didn't try to make a big fuss. He understood that it wasn't his show and he was just making a cameo. This was because he had been in the heart of the industry for 20 years, while Prince had been around for only about 5 years. When he got up on stage, he tried too hard to make an impact, and it cost him dearly. From this moment on, the bitterness between Prince and Michael became the story of their relationship. Quincy talked about Prince insisting on calling Michael Camille to annoy him. When Prince gave Michael a gift box full of cufflinks, Quincy said that Michael was completely terrified. He thought that there was some voodoo in the box. He ended up throwing Prince's gift in the garbage. This feud simmered for another couple of decades. In 2006, Michael called Prince a big meanie and claimed that he had never been nice to him. Another flashpoint came 3 years later, and this one was downright bizarre. Prince's former sound engineer recalled a time that they nearly came to blows over a game of ping pong. Apparently, Michael paid Prince a visit in LA while he was working on a movie score. Before too long, they found themselves playing a super competitive ping pong game. Prince went on to taunt Michael, telling him to get into it. Eventually, Michael dropped his paddle and held his hand in front of his face so that the ball wouldn't hit him. He then left with his bodyguard while Prince continued to mock him. Honestly, apart from one alleged threat on Michael's life, the beef between him and Prince was so weird that it became a little bit of a joke. But fortunately, after decades of deep freeze, Prince finally got a chance to put the bad blood behind them.
There was never like any rivalry between you and Mr. Jackson?
Not to me, no.
Okay.
But just how much he really meant this will always be up for debate. But what do you guys think? Did Michael and Prince really hate each other that much? And was Quincy's shocking story about Prince in a limousine really true? Let me know in the comments below.